Welcome. Today we're talking about Indonesian terrorist attacks, the shooting in Santa Fe, the royal wedding, and the Israel and Palestine clash. It's the 19th of May 2018, and this is what's going on. Suicide bombers attacked churches in Indonesia. The suicide bombers who attacked 3 churches are all members of the one family. At least 13 people killed and more than 40 injured when the group targeted Sunday Mass in the country's second largest city. Police are believed to be among those wounded in the attack. There's been no immediate claim of responsibility. Authorities are investigating whether there was an explosion in a 4th church. Indonesia's police chief said that the family had been in Syria, where the Islamic State group recently controlled a large section of the country. He said that the family's father carried out one of the attacks by exploding a car bomb, while the man's 2 sons, aged 18 and 16, used a motorbike in their attack. Their mother carried out another attack with her 2 children, 12 and 9. The first attack in Santa Maria Roman Catholic Church killed 4 people, including one of the bombers. Shattered glass and chunks of concrete littered into the entrance of the church, and it was sealed off by heavily armed police. Rescue personnel were treating victims in a nearby field while officers were inspecting wreckages of a parking lot where they suspected there may be another explosive. Minutes after the first, there was a second explosion at the Christian church that's killed 2 people. A witness described the woman with children, saying that she was carrying bags into the church. At first, officers blocked them at the front of the churchyard. Then the woman ignored them, forced her way inside. Suddenly the bomb exploded. Another 2 people died in a 3rd attack on a 3rd church. One died in hospital later on. A large blast could be heard hours after the attacks, which was the bomb disposal squad securing a remaining device. 2 police officers were among the injured involved. Also, the authorities were investigating whether there was an explosion in the 4th church. There's no initial claim for responsibility for the attacks, but the attacks were carried out by Islamic State-inspired groups. Indonesia's intelligence agency also told Metro TV that the attacks were likely linked to a prisoner hostage incident which happened last week, an incident where 5 police officers were captured and executed by inmates during a riot from convicted terrorists. Indonesia is the world's largest Muslim-majority country and has seen a resurgence in homegrown attacks. Police have temporarily closed down churches, and a large food festival in the city was cancelled. Indonesia has carried out sustained crackdowns on militants since the bombings by Al-Qaeda and radicals in Bali in 2002, which killed 202 people. I hope they can go through the process and really crack down on militants trying to terrorize their people. There's been another shooting in America, now in Texas, at a high school in Santa Fe, where 9 students and 1 teacher are dead and another 10 are injured, including a police officer who responded to the gunman's opening fire on an art class while reportedly shouting "surprise." The 17-year-old male suspect had been taken into custody, where a second person was also detained. The gunman pulled the fire alarm and students began pouring out of the classroom. An explosive device, including a Molotov cocktail, was found in the suspect's home and in a vehicle. The suspect used a shotgun and a .38 revolver owned legally by his father. The gunman reportedly intended to commit suicide but gave himself up to authorities. Santa Fe police have stated that there have been explosive devices found at the high school and surrounding areas adjacent to the school. Because of the threat of explosive items, the community members should be on the lookout for suspicious packages and anything that looks out of place.
This teenager has been identified as a suspect in the latest high school massacre. 17-year-old Dimitros Pogorchas is a student at Santa Fe High School outside Houston. 9 students and a teacher were killed in the shooting. Students say the shooter yelled "surprise" when he burst into an art class and opened fire.
Still have several more shots from him. He's actually shooting. He's in the art room. We got shots fired right now, guys. We need all of you.
Police say they found pipe bombs and pressure cooker bombs at the school. President Trump spoke about the tragedy.
We grieve for the terrible loss of life and send our support and love to everyone affected by this absolutely horrific attack.
Another sad day in America with yet again another school shooting. Okay, the royal wedding. It's all over the news, oh my god. Let's get this one out of the way. The hotly anticipated royal wedding of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle is taking place Saturday the 19th of May. However, a last-minute setback has been called in the couple's plans. Confusion about Mrs. Markle's father, Thomas. Thomas Markle Sr. had been intending to travel from his home in Mexico to the UK to meet his future son-in-law for the first time, as well as the Queen, Prince Philip, Prince of Wales, Duchess of Cornwall, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. He was also intending to walk Mrs. Markle down the aisle on Saturday, but he's disclosed that he suffered a heart attack earlier in the month. The 73-year-old said on Monday that he would avoid the ceremony for fear of embarrassing his daughter. So when is the wedding and who's planning it? The wedding will take place at St. George's Chapel on the grounds of Windsor Castle, where Prince Harry was christened, and is said to become a very special place for the couple and their relationship so far. The service will begin at 12 p.m. The people on the guest list. Invitations have been posted to 600 lucky guests, with a select 200 close friends invited to an after party at Frogmore House, which is also in the grounds of Windsor Castle. The couple do not have an official list of political leaders on the guest list, which means Prime Minister Theresa May or US President Donald Trump will not be going. The former US President Barack Obama is also going to miss out as well. The bridesmaids and page boys. Kensington Palace has announced that Mrs. Markle will have no adult bridesmaids because she's unable to choose in between her friends, and will instead be surrounded by children as page boys, bridesmaids and flower girls. The couple will make their vows at St. George's Chapel, in which last hosted a royal wedding in May 2008 when Peter Phillips, son of Prince Royal, married Autumn Kelly. The traditional ceremony will be conducted by the Dean of Windsor and the Reverend David Cornwall, the Archbishop of Canterbury. He'll be conducting the marriage vows. The couple will go on a honeymoon privately later in the year, before a busy autumn, including a trip to Sydney for the Invictus Games. That is the royal wedding. Israel and Hamas clash. UN Human Rights Council is to hold special sessions on Israel's violence and the Gaza border deaths. As the death toll in Gaza reaches 60, the United States has claimed that Hamas is using the relocation of the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem as an excuse for violence. Hamas, the Islamic movement that rules Gaza, is using the controversial unveiling of the American embassy in Jerusalem as an excuse to encourage violence, after Israeli forces killed 60 Palestinians during these protests. While asserting that we regret the loss of life, we regret all loss of life, the White House has a position that Israel has the right to defend itself. The White House declined to link the violence to the new American embassy unveiling on Monday after the United States now recognizes Jerusalem as Israel's capital. The Palestinians claim East Jerusalem is the capital of their future state. We have watched the demonstrations over the past 6 weeks. These demonstrations are nothing new. If Hamas wants to use it as an excuse to rile people up and encourage violence, that's their choice, and it's an irresponsible choice. This is all coming from the White House. Israel is coming under mounting international pressure and calls for an independent probe over the violence. Palestinians on Tuesday marked the Nakba, or catastrophe, commemorating the more than 700,000 Palestinians who fled or were expelled in the 1948 war surrounding Israel's creation. Protests and incidents flared up again on Tuesday on the Gaza border, though there were far fewer than the previous day, with 2 Palestinians killed by Israeli fire. On Monday, tens of thousands had gathered near the border, while a small number of stone-throwing Palestinians approached the fence and sought to break through, with Israeli snipers positioned on the other side. Most of the 60 Gazans killed on Monday were shot by Israeli snipers. Talks opened in the UN headquarters in New York, with a moment of silence for the dead, the majority killed by Israeli fire, in the bloodiest day in Gaza since 2014. US Ambassador Nikki Haley on Tuesday launched a stinging attack on Iranian aggression in the Middle East, deploring a double standard, condemning Hamas, provoking Israel, and that Israel has acted with restraint. No country in this chamber would act with more restraint than Israel has, Miss Haley told the council. In fact, the records of several countries here today suggest that they'll be much less restrained. To suggest that the violence had anything to do with the relocation of the US Embassy was a smokescreen. This is still Nikki Haley. The Hamas terrorist organization has been inciting violence for years, long before the United States decided to move their embassy. Make no mistake, Hamas is pleased with the results from yesterday. The United States deplores the human loss of life. She stated that again. Britain, France, and Netherlands, Poland, Sweden, and 5 European nations on the Council joined Belgium, Germany, and Italy in a statement calling for Israel to refrain from excessive use of force, and state to Hamas to avoid provocation and ensure that protests remain non-violent. This cycle of violence in Gaza needs to end. I've repeatedly called on all to exercise restraint, for all necessary steps to avoid escalation of violence, and for all incidences to be fully investigated. Israel lays blame squarely with Hamas, accusing Gaza's Islamic rulers of war crimes. It's intense over there. It's always been intense. They both want the land. They dislike each other. One's a democracy, one's an Islamic state. I don't know how they're going to come to a good agreement here. It's probably going to be a while before something like that happens. Alright, Fast 5, here we go. Commonwealth Games athletes do the runner to Sydney. There are significantly more than 19 athletes and officials missing since the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games. The visa deadline officially expired at midnight on Tuesday, and Immigration Minister Peter Dutton has threatened to deport any athletes who outstayed their visa conditions. The Refugee Advice and Casework Service, RACS, said a number of athletes had reached out for legal advice, but would not confirm how many. We've certainly seen a wide range of people from a number of different African countries for a number of different reasons. We know there's been a political unrest in the region, which may lead to some people seeking protection here. Alright, number 2, Toowoomba murder. Murder charges laid against 9 people in over a Toowoomba woman's death. A group of 9 people have appeared in court with charges of murder and assault and a fatal stabbing of a 37-year-old mother in Toowoomba, west of Brisbane. The 6 women and 3 men were previously charged with assault occasioning bodily harm after Debbie Combargo's beaten body was found in a McGregor Street unit in the Toowoomban suburb of Wilsonton on May 6. She died in Toowoomba Base Hospital later that day. All 9 appeared at Toowoomba's Magistrates Court later in the afternoon, where family members and the public it was very upsetting. None of them applied for bail, and they remain in custody to appear in court again on July 5th. Alright, number 3, Sumatra's police headquarters attack. Sword-wielding militants attack Indonesian police, killing 1. Indonesian police have shot dead 4 sword-wielding men who attacked a police headquarters in Sumatra, killing 1 officer in the latest of militant attacks across the Muslim-majority country. This is what we were talking about earlier, about from the bombings, and now there's just more attacks going on. Police say the men drove into the yard in a van before jumping out and attacking the officers. Police are yet to determine the identities or motives of the attackers. The attacks come after the bombings. 4 men used samurai swords. They'd driven the car in, staged the attack. 2 officers were wounded, while another was killed, and one of the perpetrators tried to escape and crashed into the officer. Alright, next, the Vulgar movie at the film festival. Acclaimed director Lars von Trier has promoted a mass walkout at Cannes Film Festival after outrage over his latest film. More than 100 people left the screening of The House That Jack Built on Monday night. The House That Jack Built stars Matt Damon as a serial killer which targets a series of victims. Viewers began to leave the cinema after a scene where Dylan's character shot 2 children in the head. Last one, number 5. Melania Trump's health issues. White House officials say the First Lady, Melania Trump, is expected to remain in hospital for the rest of the week following a long-planned procedure to treat a benign kidney condition. The 48-year-old had, on Monday, go on to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Maryland's President Donald Trump visited her later Monday and tweeted that the procedure was successful and that she was in good spirits. Alright guys, that's it for the weekly news review. If you've enjoyed it, please leave a like. If you'd like to see upcoming reviews, please subscribe. And until next time, thank you. Bye.